You know, every single time you swipe a debit card, stash a little piece of your paycheck into a retirement fund, or read a headline about some massive tech startup going public, you're actually interacting directly with the hidden engines of Wall Street. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a really deep dive into the high-stakes world of finance. We're going to be mapping out our journey using some truly fascinating research by Elisa Bocchialini. If you've ever wondered how these astronomical amounts of capital actually flow through the global economy, literally shaping the businesses and services we use every single day, well, it all comes down to two major players: securities firms and investment banks. Simply put, they're the economy's ultimate matchmakers, and they're the ones keeping the gears of global commerce turning.
Okay, right off the bat, let's clear something up, because these two terms get thrown around in the news interchangeably all the time, but they actually do very different things. Think of securities firms as the retail side. They handle the buying, selling, and brokerage of existing securities in the secondary markets. It's kind of like buying a used car, right? The vehicle already exists, and you're just transferring the ownership. Now, investment banks, on the other hand, are the commercial wholesalers. They operate in the primary markets, originating, underwriting, and distributing entirely new securities. Going back to our car analogy, this is the manufacturer rolling a brand new vehicle off the assembly line for the very first time.
So to keep us on track, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to hit 5 main stops, starting with the big picture and the engines of finance, all the way down to the gritty details of the art of the trade, before wrapping up with mergers and management.
All right, let's just jump right into part 1, the engines of finance. We really need to nail down the core purpose of these firms before we get into the crazy maneuvers they pull off.
If we strip away all the intimidating Wall Street jargon, at their absolute core, these firms literally just exist to move money from folks who have it to folks who desperately need it. They efficiently transfer funds from net suppliers to net users. So imagine a family putting, say, a few $100 a month into a mutual fund for their retirement. They are your net suppliers. On the complete opposite side of the country, you've got a renewable energy startup that desperately needs exactly that capital to build a massive new solar array. They're the net users. These financial firms act as this vital bridge. They make sure the transfer happens with maximum efficiency, perfectly matching risk with reward, and honestly, at a remarkably low cost to keep the whole broader economy growing.
So now we know what they do. But to really grasp how they operate, we got to look at the sheer, mind-boggling scale of it all. Welcome to Section 2, Size, Structure, and Survival. When we talk about the size of this industry, we usually measure it by equity capital, not just total assets. Why? Because equity capital is the actual skin in the game. It's their foundational buffer against catastrophic risk. Get a load of this. As of 2018, the sheer scale of the industry sat at a staggering $263.2 billion. And to put that into perspective, that $263 billion isn't the money they're managing for you and me. No, that is their own foundational equity holding up trillions of dollars in global market activity. It's quite literally the bedrock that allows the entire financial system to safely operate. Now, check out this timeline. It is a total roller coaster, a story of explosive growth followed by a pretty brutal reckoning. Back in 1980, there were just over 5,200 firms. By 1987, as the markets roared, that number spiked to over 9,500. But then we hit this massive contraction. Changing regulations like the Financial Service Modernization Act of 1999 played a part, but the real hammer blow was the devastating 2008 financial crisis. The 2008 crisis irrevocably changed the entire landscape. I mean, institutions that had stood for almost a century were wiped out practically overnight. At the start of 2008, the top 5 pure investment banks either totally collapsed, got swallowed up, or basically transformed into traditional bank holding companies just to survive. By 2018, the herd had dramatically thinned out to under 3,800 firms. So you might be wondering, who exactly survived that mess? Well, those who made it through had to carve out very specific, hyper-focused niches. At the very top of the food chain, you have the absolute giants, commercial bank holding companies like J.P. Morgan. They leverage massive, diversified global operations to weather basically any economic storm. Then you've got your national full-service firms like Goldman Sachs, who lean heavily into corporate finance. Just below them are large investment banks with a strict institutional focus like Greenhill & Co. And finally, you have the highly specialized segment firms. This is everybody from regional brokers handling local clients, to discount brokers for everyday retail investors, to electronic trading firms that replace human brokers entirely with complex algorithms. It's a vast ecosystem, but specialization is absolutely the key to survival here. Let's keep moving. Next up is Section 3, Raising Capital and Innovation. Let's see how these firms actually fuel new business and bring crazy, groundbreaking ideas to life.
A massive chunk of investment banking comes down to underwriting. This is the critical process of raising debt and equity by distributing new issues of securities to the public. Honestly, this is where the magic happens for new businesses. Think of an IPO, an initial public offering. The bank can do a public offering, selling shares to the broad public, right? Or they can do a private offering, where they act as a placement agent and quietly sell those securities directly to massive institutional investors, like a huge life insurance company. But here is the absolutely crucial part. When a bank underwrites an IPO, they aren't just acting as a friendly middleman. They are often taking on the massive risk of buying those shares themselves to resell them. They are literally betting their own money and their own reputation on that company's ultimate success.
Now, what about financing companies completely outside the public markets? That's where venture capital and private equity come in. The biggest difference here boils down to risk and maturity. Venture capital builds from the ground up. They throw professionally managed pools of money at high-risk, untried startups, often backing just a brilliant scientific team in exchange for equity. Private equity, though, deals with existing companies that already have proven track records. They step in to scale up what already works or maybe turn around a struggling operation. But, and this is a big but, post-crisis, these once strict lines have blurred dramatically. The competition for lucrative deals is so intense right now that you'll frequently see private equity firms taking on early-stage startup risks and venture capitalists funding later-stage mature companies. It's wild.
Okay, so the capital is raised, the securities are out in the world. Now we enter a totally different, adrenaline-fueled environment. Welcome to Section 4, the art of the trade. One of the absolute most vital functions on the trading floor is market making. Securities firms literally create a secondary market for an asset. Let's bring back that used car dealership analogy for a second. If you want to sell your car today, the dealership buys it from you, right? They take it into their own inventory, and if someone else wants to buy a car tomorrow, they sell it to them. They act as the principal to ensure that whenever you show up, a transaction can actually happen. In finance, this guarantees liquidity. They take on that inventory to ensure you're never stuck holding a stock that nobody wants to buy, and they make their profit on the spread between the buying and selling price. And that concept builds perfectly into these 6 main types of trading these firms execute. Some trades are all about anticipating the future, like position trading, where firms buy massive blocks of an asset, just expecting a favorable price move over time. Then there's risk arbitrage, where traders bet on anticipated info, like an upcoming corporate merger. Contrast that with exploiting the present, like pure arbitrage. This is literally the financial equivalent of buying a vintage watch at a neighborhood garage sale and instantly selling it online for a guaranteed, risk-free profit, buying in one market, selling immediately in another. We've also got program trading, which is just computers simultaneously buying or selling a portfolio of at least 15 stocks. And finally, you have standard stock brokerage, trading on behalf of human customers, while electronic brokerage bypasses the middleman entirely, giving you direct internet access to the trading floor. All right, for our final section, we're going to step off the trading floor and look at mergers, management, and beyond. These are the high-stakes advisory roles keeping the whole system churning. Investment banks play a massive role as the architects in mergers and acquisitions, or M&A. They do it all. They find merger partners, they assess target values, they recommend terms, and they underwrite the new securities. To give you an idea of the incredible stakes here, M&A activity hit a staggering $1.82 trillion in 2019 alone. I mean, $1.82 trillion? These aren't just paper transactions. These are mega deals that fundamentally reshape entire global industries, create brand monopolies, and cause massive workforce shifts. And for the banks, well, the advisory fees on just a single mega merger can sometimes fund an entire quarter's revenue. They really are the quiet architects behind those massive corporate headlines you read every week. But to really round out the picture, look at this list of quiet but highly profitable maintenance services. This right here is the hidden machinery of Wall Street. They manage mutual funds, actively trying to beat benchmarks like the S&P 500. They offer bank-like cash management accounts. They act as safekeepers for escrow and custody. They handle the incredibly complex, completely unglamorous clearance and settlement of actual trades, just to ensure the money actually moves between parties, and they provide extensive research and advisory services. What's super fascinating about this is that the research is often paid for through what they call soft dollars. So instead of an investment manager paying hard cash directly for a research report, they pay for it by routing their lucrative trading commissions through that specific bank. It's this incredibly lucrative, fully interconnected web of services.
And this brings us to a really fascinating crossroads, because today investment banks are increasingly expanding their reach, venturing deep into traditional commercial banking areas, things like small business lending and loan trading. Think about it. If the absolute giants of Wall Street are now competing for the exact same small business loans as your friendly local neighborhood bank, those traditional boundaries haven't just blurred, they've practically vanished. So, as these colossal financial engines continue to adapt and evolve, we really have to ask ourselves, where will the line be drawn next? Or is the future of finance destined to just be one massive interconnected engine? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the fascinating structures that shape our everyday economy.